Okay, welcome to the Bearded and Broke podcast. Today we're talking about the return of the Premier League, Dan and I. I think we can all agree police officers shouldn't be killing black people. Support Black Lives Matter any way you can. If you can protest, if you can sign petitions, or donate to causes in any way, shape or form, please consider supporting those protests, those causes, signing petitions in any way you can. Right, let's get into it.
Right. Okay.
About it.
Right. So, this pod is about a very sensitive subject, I think. A subject that both of us have a lot of, not a lot of patience and a lot of passion, I think, is the best wording for it. And it is the return of football throughout the world pandemic of COVID-19. So, James,
Yes.
let me know your thoughts. What's changed your mind? What's going on?
So that was a very professional intro. Well done, Dan.
Well, I try my best. I'm good on the spot sometimes. Most of the time actually goes to shit. It's only the rarity that's all right. Anyway, sorry, go on.
Yeah, so I'm really worried about the return of the Premier League in the UK. So when you compare because the UK is starting to open up back now. As we're recording this, we've just been told, we heard the other day that you can now meet groups of 6 in a park, but you have to socially distance. Now, I've been going out every day and I've seen people not socially distancing. Add on to that the fact that we still haven't tested properly. We still haven't tested every single case, and we still are finding people who were asymptomatic, who didn't show symptoms, who are still testing positive and are still able to continue to spread COVID. And if you compare the UK right now compared to Germany hammered on the testing. They've found, I don't know if they've tracked every single case, but they've got it down significantly. And I'm pretty sure their cases are coming down each week. I might be wrong. But the point is that they tested effectively, and they've gotten through that first wave, and now they're at a point where they can start to open up because they know where all the positive tests are. The UK is not in that position. We still are having a lot of cases each week. I don't know. It is coming down, but I don't think it's coming down that significantly. So I'm worried that by us starting to open up right now, that it will still continue to spread, and this is only going to get much, much worse. I'm worried that we'll have a second spike for sure.
I think it's a very good explanation that you have, actually. I think I would definitely agree to people not socially distancing themselves from other people when they're out and about, especially over the last few days. I don't know if you've heard, and I'm not going to go into detail over the protests that have been happening, but I'm bricking it over the fact that there's thousands of people in Trafalgar Square. They're not socially distancing. There's however many thousands in Oxford Street as well protesting, and I get that this is a matter that needs to be addressed, but I find it very difficult to understand. This is going adrift a little bit. I find it very difficult to why the people are protesting here whilst our situation with COVID-19 is so bad. It's not our government that's having this issue at the moment. And again, as I'm saying, I understand the issue. I do understand it. Not saying you're not allowed to protest, anything like that. But with the current issue that we've got, with not enough sufficient testing and people not socially distancing, and everyone is just losing their shit. Half the people are saying it's a made up virus. Half the people are saying it's going to get worse. And it's just like a shitstorm happening at the moment. I am getting very fed up of everything, and I'm thinking to myself, actually, the major thing that I want back is the entertainment, and the entertainment is being a football. And I know this is, again, not really a straight direct line, because there's a lot of other things that I want before football, but football is just one of those things that has the ability to come back if it's done properly. Like you very well mentioned, it's a difficult one to say what's proper and what's not, because I think a lot of other countries have proven that it's working for them in a very different strategy to us, which is very worrying. So I think what I'm trying to say is that I can't wait for football, and I'm not really looking at the scientific ways that the government has been going about things. And that's why I want it back, because I want entertainment and I want some kind of thing to look forward to and some excitement.
You want distraction, basically.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best way to say it. That I want the entertainment, I want the distraction, and stop worrying about life.
I get that, but at the same time, it's just not. How do I put this? I completely get where you're coming from, in the sense that you know it's been so long without football, and you want something to distract from just fucking being inside all the time. And my argument to that is get a hobby.
Right. Okay.
I told you about this earlier, but I thought, why not? I was walking by my neighbour earlier, like yesterday, and they're just giving away a bunch of shit. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see I'm holding a guitar. So I'm now going to start learning guitar badly. And that's going to help distract me from just fucking being inside all the time and just watching YouTube. Like I just go down the YouTube rabbit hole.
So what you were saying, I did a good intro. I think the intro should be you playing a bit of a tune now, not me doing the intro.
I can barely Smoke on the Water, and that's the simplest tune you can do.
That can be the outro then.
Okay, we'll make that the outro.
Sorry to anyone who's viewing it.
Oh my God.
The outro, the last 10 seconds, take your earphones out or mute the microphone.
You can just skip speakers forward. Even. In the podcast app, you can just skip forward 30 seconds. You can just skip forward after that. Like, just don't worry about that.
That's a good plan. That's what I'll definitely do.
And I'll tell you what, my index finger is really sore because today was the first day that I actually went and practiced. So,
how long did you practice for today?
Like 2 hours. Just trying to learn. I think I've got it down now. I think.
That's not bad. Well, you'll play it for us, won't you, at the end?
Yeah, I will play it for you, Dan. But coming back to the Prem and all of that.
Yeah.
My concern with relating to the spread of COVID and everything is the Premier League last week, I think it was, did another round of tests on players from Bournemouth and Watford. And there was a Bournemouth player who tested positive last week, so he didn't know. Think about all the times he could have spread the virus. And there was another unnamed player from Watford or some other team.
Yeah, I was going to say
positive. Watford. So people are still testing positive, and they're just allowing it to open up and them to go back to training. What?
Yeah, I mean, I do understand where you're coming from. My question is how does the phasing of the testing work? How does the Premier League do the testing? Do you know?
I think they just buy up a bunch of testing kits and then get people in individually to test. From what I can see, there isn't really a list of priorities in terms of, okay, we're going to test management first and then players. From what I've seen, it seems to be they're just going, right, who hasn't been tested? We'll get you in. Okay, we can't do you this time. It doesn't, from what I've seen, it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. It seems to be quite random.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you've heard, so they've had 4 phases.
Oh, right.
Of testing. In phase 1, they had like 4 players test positive. In phase 2, they had 2 players. And in phase 3 is the one that you're talking about. Is it 3 or 2 people tested positive.
Sure, let's go with that. I don't know.
And then they did the 4th test of phasing Friday just gone. So that would have been the 29th of May. And they had 0 positive tests. So, so with those 0 positive tests, you would think that, yes, even though the rest of the Premier League are, you know, they've all been tested, it's almost like, it's very difficult to work, because from one side, I see what you're saying. Like, some people don't know if they're positive because they've been asymptomatic. But from the other side, it makes you question if they've actually been isolating. You know, and there's a bigger problem to this whole thing if we lock down early enough and all that sort of stuff.
Well, we didn't. We didn't.
So
we know that. And, that's made the spread get a lot worse than it actually could have been. And the thing that's really pissing me off with all of this is the fact that we're seeing senior professors or scientists coming out and now saying that the government isn't following their advice on the lockdown. Like, the government is still starting to open things up after the scientists are advising them that no, we should still be locked down because people are not following lockdown. And what am I trying to say? And it's not coming down. Like, they brought this scale out, right? Where you said the closer we are to 1, then we're just going to tighten up the restrictions. I don't think that number is coming down. I'm pretty
5,
sure.
I think it's flipped over. 1 is back to normality. 5 is
No. The closer it gets to 0 on this scale, then the more we're able to open up. The closer it gets towards 1, that's when we can't contain the spread. And once it goes above 1,
rate of infection, you mean?
Yeah. Once the rate of, that's what it is. I couldn't remember.
Right. Okay. I thought you were talking about the Nando's Spice thing. 1 to 5 was it? Yeah, the 1 to 5 one.
Yeah, exactly. Because the scale looked like the Nando's Spice scale, and those memes were circulating as well. But
that's probably where the government advisors took it from.
Yeah, exactly. So.
Oh dear.
So what was I trying to say? So.
The government not following scientific advice.
Yes. So once it goes above 1, once the rate of infection goes back above 1, then you're not able to contain the spread, and more people will get it. And they're just and it's getting close to 1, and the government's going, nah, we're going to keep opening up. So annoying, man.
Yeah.
That's literally.
Yeah, I think from a from looking at the depth of detail into rate of infection and all that, it's probably not the wisest of things to bring back people into those environments. But then from a selfish point of view, where I just want to watch a bit of football.
Yeah, you're like the True Geordie when he wanted to watch UFC. Like he was complaining that because they were going to host it on a private island, weren't they? And then and then Disney, which I think it's Disney, which partially owns UFC. So Disney stepped in and said, we can't be doing this. I guess they decided it wasn't good for their image or something. That's my guess.
Yeah.
So I guess they just decided that, and then said, right, we're going to nuke this and kill it. But now we've seen the UFC back, and that's getting a ton of attention. And so other people are seeing that and starting to think, oh, we can grab all of this attention by opening up now. And maybe not necessarily thinking, well, is this actually safe? Is this actually a smart thing to be doing?
Yeah, I think what they said that all live sport can go back from the 1st of June behind closed doors. So I don't know. It makes you question if these people are all within one community, essentially, where if it's behind closed doors, they're only coming in contact with one another. So, I don't know, say, for example, in the Premier League there is, I don't know, 1,500 people that you would come in contact with in every single team and all that sort of thing. You get my point, don't you?
Yeah.
Those 1,500 people would be the only ones coming in contact with one another.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's assuming that they're actually socially distancing, because we know footballers aren't. Who was that guy? Oh, Hudson Odoi, who got arrested at some girl's house at 4 a.m. Kyle Walker's been going to sex parties. Who else? Who was the one that was arrested drunk driving in the middle of the night? Jack Grealish.
Yeah.
Come on, they're not following
he came
social
out
distancing. This is stupid.
He came out, said sorry, and then everyone's forgotten about it.
It was the worst. It was the worst apology I've ever seen. It was a non-apology. I think in the middle of it, he said, I'm going to try my best to not do this in the near future. Near future. So what, in a week, in a month, I might actually start following social distancing?
Yeah.
It's fucking stupid, man.
It just brings it back to this, again, this theory of elitism and, they're earning so much money, they're better than everyone else. And why should rules apply to them?
Yeah, they make
it. And I think it's very much of a, Premier League is back or going to be back. Don't know if it's going to work or not. All we can do is hope that it will. But it's going to have a bigger effect on the smaller leagues because they've got smaller margins. They've got it's just a different kettle of fish where they're trying to survive rather than make triple figure million profits like the Premier League are. So I think it's
for those smaller leagues, those teams in those smaller leagues, it's more about survival. Whereas the Premier League, they have to be sitting on a shit ton of cash. The Premier League isn't going to be threatened by holding off for another month or so. But a League One team, which, as you say, has a smaller margin and really needs that income, they'll be much more affected by this.
Yeah, which is really sad if you think about it, because we had Bury and was it Bolton as well who was struggling.
Bolton nearly collapsed, but Bury.
Bury went under, didn't they?
Yeah, Bury went under. I don't know what's happened to them.
Well, they've just dissolved. So
no, because I was thinking, what happened with Rangers when they dissolved, and then some fan. I think it was fans. Somebody restarted Rangers Football Club in Scotland, and then they've worked their way up to where they're back now in the Scottish Premier League. And you saw a similar thing with AFC Wimbledon, where they used to be Wimbledon and then they got moved up to Milton Keynes, and then some fans restarted Wimbledon. So,
yeah, I think looking at the geographical location of Bury, I don't know if you know,
not really.
They're basically, so you've got Manchester, and Bury is very much, I think their training ground is adjacent to Carrington, which is Man United's training ground. It's literally like a 10-minute drive, if that. So I think looking at their geographical location, people who live in that location will support Man City. And that is a dig at Man United fans because none of them live in Manchester.
Yeah, they all
so my point is that they haven't got the fan base, I don't think, to have the same likes of Rangers and Wimbledon were very big in the Premier League before they collapsed and turned into MK Dons, but that's a whole different story. So all I can do is just say I hope there is a way for them back, because I think football clubs are a community and they're a source of jobs and source of entertainment, but I wouldn't hold out any hopes, to be honest.
No, I really wouldn't. Any other thoughts?
Well, yeah, transfers in post COVID-19 era.
I don't know.
So PSG have just announced 50 million signing of Mario Icardi.
Right.
So
Okay.
of course, the French league got cancelled, didn't they?
Mhm.
And of course, this whole pandemic is going to have a massive effect on financials and player values. It's very interesting that PSG have just gone out and spent 50 million on the player whose supposedly transfer market was 60 million. But still, it's
Who did
quite a
they
bit of
sign him
money,
from?
isn't it?
Who did they sign him from?
Inter.
Inter Milan. So I'm just thinking, PSG is owned by some Arab oil people, aren't they? Isn't it the Dubai government?
Yeah, so without going into too much detail, it literally is the Qatari government that funds
Oh,
them. But
okay.
it's like Man City, where it's not the Qatari government, but it is the Qatari government
It's their
that
royal
fund.
family that owns PSG, and they're able to
Yeah,
fund it and give them and give them this ridiculous transfer budget, and that's why they now dominate the French league. That's why they were able to buy Neymar for
well, 200 million in the same summer as they bought Mbappe for 150 million. So a 350 million budget in one
350
summer is,
million pounds or euros, I don't know what, on two people. What in the fuck?
and their wages are probably like just under a million a week, if not around
Neymar
about there.
Neymar gets $1 million a week, I think, doesn't he?
There you go. There you go. And Mbappe can't be too far off that, can he?
No, he's the best young player in the world. But the reason why I was thinking about who owns Inter and things. So Inter may well be struggling for cash because Italy's been really badly affected by COVID.
Mm.
So they stopped playing earlier, and so their revenues will be down even more so. And the
Italian league are coming back as well, though, aren't they?
They are, after proper testing, by the way. But the point is that they may have been desperate for cash, and so they may not necessarily have wanted to sell Icardi because he's obviously an incredibly talented player, but
I mean,
needed to in
just
order to survive potentially. That's just a thought.
just the backstory for you. You probably don't know because you're talking about revenues with Icardi. So I think it was about 2 years ago. He had a massive row with the Inter fans where he was the captain of the club. And I don't know the specifics, but I know vaguely what happened. So he went and just basically started calling the fans idiots and, went proper against them. The fans didn't like him whilst he was the captain of the club. And he went out and proper slated the fans and said, they're horrible people and many things that I probably shouldn't be saying on a YouTube or any podcast or whatever, wherever this is going to be going out on.
Fuck you, like. Stop worrying.
With my professional intro, I don't think I can. What I'm trying to say, I think, is can you still hear me? I've gone a bit.
Yeah, I can still hear you. You're all good.
Yeah. What I'm trying to say is that there was a lot of crap going on with him and the fans. So I know Conte wasn't a big fan of his when he came in. That's why he brought in Lukaku, to show him that he's the boss and he didn't want him in the club anymore. The fans didn't like him. The manager didn't like him. It was just like, let's get as much money as we can for him.
Right. So they're just trying to get rid of him.
Yeah.
He's clearly an issue for them. Okay.
Yeah. So I think you do have a point with, saying that they probably tried to get as much money as they could for him. And they have been hit quite hard. But also there is another issue there. So what the reasons why I brought this up is I want to know how money's going to go now, because I don't think we're going to be seeing 200 million players for a while now, because we all thought, we're going to see a 500 million player before 2030. don't think it's going to go that way now. I think it's going to stabilise for a good 5 years or so.
So don't forget, we were seeing the main reason why player prices were just inflating at a ridiculous rate was because of the money that came in to the Premier League because of their TV rights deal. So that TV rights deal is still in place until 2022. And
okay.
so there's no reason to believe, for me, unless the financial situation, like in the world economy, gets significantly worse. There's no reason to believe so far why. There's no reason to believe why that will not be set to at least increase in 2 years' time. Like, there's no, if people keep watching the Premier League, there's no reason why that budget won't increase, and then that they'll obviously sign players from foreign countries, and then that cash will go to Germany and to Italy, and they'll have inflated budgets. So there's no, I don't really buy that it will stabilize in the short term. In the next transfer window, it probably will stabilize for a bit, but I don't see why it can't jump back in a year's time or two.
I think you've got a point, but I also wonder if all of this is going to kick the Premier League in the backside and make them realise that they can go on and do this on their own. You know, Sky buy their rights for, what was it, 3 billion they pay the Premier League, and then they make however many billion profit. I think it's 8 billion. So to the Premier League, you know, without selling their rights, if they go independent, they could make themselves 5, 6, 7 billion without having to go to the Sky, who overcharge people to watch their TV. So for me, they can, you know, with the likes now, you've seen Amazon Prime on Boxing Day, they've showed the Premier League. There's going to be different ways and different channels to let people watch it. And I'm not saying Sky are, you know, data technology, because they're not. All I'm saying is there is a window of opportunity for the Premier League not to be lazy, to go make their own money, and then they can make it so much better than it is now.
Yeah. So what it sounds like, are you saying that they should make all of their media in-house, similar to how the NFL does, where the NFL has their own media, and they'll immediately after games, they'll take highlights and they'll clip it up and they'll put it onto YouTube straight away, so people can view it that way, rather than having to wait till 10 o'clock in the evening on a Saturday for you to get to see the highlights for the first time? Because that's how it works at the moment, and I think that's quite stupid, and that could drive more attention to the Premier League.
Yes, so the Premier League has eased up over the last few years. I think when Barclays were the sponsor, it was very much like you say, match of the day is the earliest you can really see unless you stream it. But now the Premier League allow clubs to post highlights of their games. I don't know the specific timings, but I don't think it's straight after the game. So it's freed up a little bit, but it's not essentially a free for all to watch whilst it's happening. Not that it should be. I think people should pay to watch live sport, but what I'm trying to say is that I don't think it's the same system as the American system.
Yeah, true. And I do think that they should look at other options for you know, putting their media out. So Sky and TV, I don't know about, I barely watch TV. So the only reason I do is to watch football or rugby or something like that. Mm-hmm. So what I'm saying is they could potentially, because Amazon has a shit ton of money now. They're making money during this pandemic. They're not, they're still, their stock prices are going up. They have so much money right now. There's no reason why Amazon couldn't pay the Premier League to live stream Premier League games. There's no reason they couldn't do that. And then
well, it could be a possibility when this deal runs out. Is it 22?
Yeah, I think it's 22.
I wouldn't be surprised if Amazon jumps on it and says, well, actually, we'll give you however much if you let us stream. And then a lot of people start getting Amazon Prime. I know a lot of people have it now, but yeah, it'll be very different, because I remember watching the stream on Amazon on Boxing Day, and they had live statistics as well, and it was all on one screen, and it was just amazing to see what they had and what they could do if they had all the rights to it, because that was just one game that I got to see, and I think that was the Chelsea Tottenham game, I think, or something like that. But yeah,
Yes.
anyway, it doesn't matter. But I just like the fact that Lampard beat Mourinho.
Oh, for sure, that must have been great.
Oh yeah, it was amazing. It was just one of those games where, you know, going into a big game, Mourinho's the manager of the position, and you think, oh, he's probably gonna park the bus, get one chance, and they're gonna score it, but didn't. But I'm going off topic now. Anyway,
Yeah. So what did you? But there's other things as well that will factor into whether Amazon gets it, because what did you think of the commentary and all of that? Was that all right?
Yeah, I think the only issues would be the lag, but I think that would be the internet connection.
That's probably your internet connection, mate.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't think anything to criticise as of yet. Well, I say as of yet, I watched one of their games. So I think it's definitely a possibility that the Premier League should pursue, because it would make it more watchable for a wider group of people. And I think that's the point of the Premier League, isn't it? They're trying to increase their stream of viewers, and that way they can get them money.
Exactly. You've got to go where everyone's attention is. So you've got to go to Amazon Prime, which is going to be massive. And
it's only going to grow, yeah.
Yeah, it's only going to grow. Like less and less people are going to watch television, and more people are going to go to these online services like Amazon and Netflix. Like there's
exactly.
Yeah.
You know, there's already so much stuff going about not paying a TV license, and people just have Netflix and whatnot. So
yeah,
I do see that.
When I was at uni, I didn't pay for a TV license. I just watched YouTube and Netflix and everything. I didn't watch iPlayer, and that's the only reason you pay for a TV license is for iPlayer, is for the BBC. And when you don't watch the BBC, like, what's the point in paying?
Well, that's the argument, isn't it? They're saying that it's a law, but it's not really a law that they can enforce as such. So it's one of those.
And like take
yeah. Well, but then they need a warrant to get into your house, don't they? They can't just come into your house.
Exactly. And all of that over 130 quid?
155, something like that, yeah.
Not really worth it.
No, but that's the BBC for you.
Very true. We should probably get back to our original point, which
is
the Premier League, like restarting and COVID and everything. I have neither of us really know what to expect from certain teams because they've been out for so long. So we're not going to bother making predictions. But it's just
I think it's just going to be like the German football, though, isn't it? Where you see the bigger teams excel because they've just got more quality, and the lower teams where they have less quality, and now they're saying they'll have 5 substitutes available. Well, the lower teams don't have 5 enough good substitutes. They might have 3 good substitutes, whereas the bigger teams who've got more squad depth will be using that to their advantage. So it's just one of those things that I think the only thing that I would predict, if I was going to predict anything, is the top, 6, 7, 8 teams. I don't know how many the top teams as such now in the Premier League, but the ones with more quality will probably have bigger wins, because the teams with less skilled players will be at less advantage than the ones at the top.
Yeah, because they've got more skill depth, because all the top teams can just have already just bought up a bunch of talent, and now that have they confirmed then the Prem's got 5 subs?
I think it was something that was implemented by UEFA. So I think it's up to the football associations of the countries to implement that.
Okay, but assuming they do, then it will just allow for the bigger teams to dominate even more, because just when they're they can just bring on a fresh talent at the end of the game who's just as good as the guy who just subbed off. And that's just mental.
Yeah, well, in theory, that's the logic. I don't know if that will be an actual fact, because how the Premier League's been going on. You'd argue that it's been more of a motivational thing for players to play, and anyone could win it when Leicester won it, because they didn't really have the best team, but they had a handful of players, maybe 4 players that made that year so good, and they went and won it. So I'm not sure if coming back after this pandemic and how much fitness players would have lost is going to be that way. I think it's going to be more on skill of the players, and it's going to show very, very well when the likes of Man City are going to go to Watford and going to win like 10-0 or something like that.
Yeah, exactly, mate. You make a very good point.
So we'll just have to wait and see, and hopefully, to Watford fans, they could enjoy the 10 goals conceded.
Exactly. You can have fun. I hope they're very good goals. I hope they're very entertaining to watch.
Yeah, well, you would like to think that one of them would be at least, but I think any goal at the moment would be
It's just
a good cheer.
Just something to watch.
Yeah.
Should we end it there?
I think we've gone massively off topic, and I think that's a good pod. So, yeah, thanks everyone for. I mean, I would sympathise with you if you've listened up until now, but thank you.
So sorry for what we've just put you through. Thank you if you got to this point, and we'll see you again next week.
Cheers.
Cheers, guys. So, here we are. Please don't balls this up. No! I couldn't get the second note. Oh, for fuck's sake. Oh, fuck. That is awful.